1945, the closing moments of World War II. The United States stands as one of the victors, having played a crucial role in defeating the Axis powers. But amidst the jubilation and relief, a more clandestine chapter in history was already being written. This is the story of Operation Paperclip, the classified hiring of Nazi scientists by the US government. The shocking discovery began with the mere existence of Project Overcast, an initiative that predated Operation Paperclip. Established in 1945 under President Truman's administration, Project Overcast aimed to exploit German scientific expertise for America's military advantage. However, it wasn't until after the war ended that the true scale and implications of such operations would come to light. In August 1945, General Dwight D. Eisenhower toured Germany, witnessing firsthand the devastation wrought by the war. Amidst this ruin, he made a chilling discovery. Thousands of German scientists were on the verge of being captured by the Soviet Union. To prevent this, Eisenhower authorized the swift recruitment of these scientists for American interests, thus paving the way for Operation Paperclip. What followed was an extensive operation involving multiple U.S. government agencies. The Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, Army Intelligence, and the State Department worked together to identify, vet, and transfer these scientists to America. However, there was one significant problem. Many of these scientists were active members of the Nazi Party or had direct involvement in its atrocities. To circumvent this issue, the JIOA simply removed all references to their Nazi affiliations from their records. This allowed them to be granted security clearances and visas under false identities, enabling their seamless integration into American society. By 1955, over 760 German scientists had been brought to the US under Operation Paperclip, contributing significantly to advancements in rocketry, aviation, and space exploration. Yet, many unanswered questions remain about the extent of these scientists' involvement in war crimes and their influence on US military development. Documents detailing their pasts were often destroyed or remain classified, shrouding their true histories in mystery. Moreover, several high-profile figures, such as Wernher von Braun, whose V-2 rockets rained terror upon London, were integrated into prestigious positions within NASA and the US military. The implications of Operation Paperclip continue to reverberate today, raising ethical dilemmas about the compromises made in the pursuit of scientific progress. As we delve deeper into this intricate web of secrets, we unravel a tale that challenges our understanding of justice, loyalty, and morality in the face of technological advancement. The story of Operation Paperclip is a labyrinthine tale of secrecy and morally ambiguous choices made in the name of progress. Initiated in 1945 by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, this secret operation aimed to recruit German scientists for employment in the US military and intelligence services. The implications of these actions are still felt today, raising questions about the compromises made in pursuit of scientific advancement. The mastermind behind Operation Paperclip was President Harry S. Truman, who signed the directive for the program on July 20, 1945, just days after the historic Trinity test that ushered in the atomic age. However, it wasn't until December 3, 1946, when the first group of 10 German scientists arrived in America under Operation Paperclip. These men were granted a form of temporary immigration known as Extra Protocol, and began working on projects for the US military and NASA. Among the key players in Operation Paperclip were high-ranking Nazi scientists like Wernher von Braun, Arthur Rudolph, and Hubertus Struckold. Wernher von Braun, a former SS officer and the leading figure in Germany's rocket development program, became a pivotal player at NASA after his recruitment through Operation Paperclip. Von Braun's expertise in rocketry was instrumental in the US's race to space, as he led the team that developed the Saturn V rocket, which powered the Apollo missions to the moon. Arthur Rudolph, another key figure in Germany's rocket development program, joined von Braun at NASA after being brought to the US under Operation Paperclip. Rudolph was later accused of using forced labor during his time at Middlework, a factory that produced the V-2 rockets designed by von Braun. Despite these allegations, Rudolph retained his US citizenship until 1984 when he voluntarily renounced it to avoid prosecution for war crimes. Hubertus Struckold, known as the father of space medicine, was another high-ranking Nazi scientist recruited through Operation Paperclip. Although never charged with a war crime, his association with the Nazi regime raised questions about his moral character. In 1947, Struckold became the first director of the U.S. Air Force's aeromedical field at Randolph Field in Texas, later playing a significant role in establishing NASA's space medicine research program. The U.S. military also played an essential role in Operation Paperclip. The Army's Counterintelligence Corps and the Office of Strategic Services, forerunner to the CIA, were tasked with identifying and vetting potential candidates for recruitment. These agencies worked closely with the Nazi scientists, providing them with new identities and clearing their past affiliations with the Nazi regime in order to bring them to America. As we continue to explore the implications of Operation Paperclip, it becomes clear that this secret operation raises complex questions about justice, loyalty, and morality in the face of scientific progress. The recruitment of these high-ranking Nazi scientists provided the US with a significant technological advantage during the Cold War era. However, the moral costs of these actions remain a topic of debate and introspection as we grapple with the consequences of our past decisions and their impact on our present understanding of justice and morality. The United States' involvement in Operation Paperclip, a covert initiative to recruit Nazi scientists after World War II, remains shrouded in mystery and controversy. The objective was clear: leverage these scientific minds to gain an edge in the escalating Cold War era. But the ethical implications of this decision continue to raise questions about justice, morality, and the value of knowledge. One key figure in Operation Paperclip was Wernher von Braun, a former Nazi SS officer and a leading figure in rocket development. Von Braun surrendered to the Americans in 1945 and was whisked away to begin a new life and career in the United States. His expertise in rocketry led to his appointment as the director of the Development Operations Division at the Army Ballistic Missile Agency, where he played a crucial role in the early development of the US space program. But von Braun was not alone. Hundreds of other Nazi scientists were also recruited under Operation Paperclip, including Arthur Rudolph, Walter Schreiber, and Hubertus Struckold. These men brought with them a wealth of knowledge in fields such as aerodynamics, medicine, and chemistry. However, their pasts were tainted by involvement in war crimes, human experimentation, and the development of weapons of mass destruction. One particularly chilling example can be found in the research conducted by Struckold, who was dubbed the Papa of Space Medicine. As the director of the Institute for Aviation Medicine at the University of Berlin during World War II, Struckold oversaw experiments in which concentration camp inmates were subjected to extreme temperatures and high-altitude conditions. Although he was never charged with a crime, his past has cast a long shadow over his contributions to space medicine. The question remains: why did the United States choose to overlook these atrocities in favor of scientific advancement? The answer lies in the context of the Cold War and the intense competition between the US and the Soviet Union. Fear of falling behind drove the US government to make difficult decisions, including the recruitment of Nazi scientists who could provide valuable insights and expertise. Still, the moral implications of Operation Paperclip cannot be ignored. The decision to hire these men meant that they escaped prosecution for their war crimes, allowing them to live out their lives in relative comfort and freedom. It also sent a message that scientific progress was more important than justice and morality, a trade-off that continues to raise questions and spark debate. As we look back on Operation Paperclip and the role it played in shaping the course of history, we are left with a sense of unease and uncertainty. The secrets and unanswered questions that surround this chapter and our past serve as a reminder of the complex choices we face in the pursuit of knowledge and progress. And while the scientific advancements made possible by Operation Paperclip have undoubtedly changed the world, the moral costs of these actions continue to linger, leaving us to grapple with the consequences of our past decisions and their impact on our present understanding of justice and morality. The veil of secrecy surrounding Operation Paperclip, the United States' covert program to recruit German scientists after World War II, leaves us with many unanswered questions. The official narrative often glosses over the moral complexities and controversial aspects of this operation. To truly understand what happened, we must delve into the suppressed histories and investigate the fates of these Nazi scientists post-Operation Paperclip. The program's architects, including the Office of Strategic Services and the U.S. Army's Counterintelligence Corps, were tasked with identifying, vetting, and extricating German scientists who could potentially aid American military efforts during the Cold War. Among these scientists was Wernher von Braun, a key figure in the development of the V-2 rocket for Nazi Germany. Von Braun and his team were brought to the US under Operation Paperclip, where they played pivotal roles in the American space program. However, the full extent of their ties to the Nazi regime remained hidden, as their backgrounds were deliberately sanitized by US authorities. One notable example is Arthur Rudolph, who, like von Braun, was involved in the production of the V-2 rocket. In 1984, it was discovered that Rudolph had actively participated in the exploitation of forced labor at the Mittelwerk factory, where thousands of prisoners from the Dora concentration camp were used to manufacture the V-2 rockets. Despite these revelations, Rudolph's role in Operation Paperclip remained largely unchanged until his voluntary departure from the US in 1984. The suppression of information surrounding Operation Paperclip extends beyond individual scientists and their pasts. The US government actively worked to erase any traces of these scientists' ties to the Nazi regime, even going so far as to seize and destroy documents related to their wartime activities. In 1972, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered evidence that the US Justice Department had destroyed thousands of pages of records related to Operation Paperclip in the early 1960s. The destruction of these documents left an incomplete historical record and fueled speculation about the true extent of the US involvement with Nazi scientists. The long-term implications of Operation Paperclip are still being felt today, as questions regarding justice, morality, and accountability continue to haunt the scientific community and policymakers alike. The decision to hire Nazi scientists in pursuit of military and scientific advancements set a precedent for future covert operations and has left a lasting impact on our understanding of the ethical considerations involved in such endeavors. The unanswered questions surrounding Operation Paperclip serve as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge and progress is not without its moral costs. As we continue to grapple with the consequences of these actions, we are reminded of the importance of transparency, accountability, and ethical considerations in our scientific endeavors. The full story of Operation Paperclip, the US government's secret program to recruit Nazi scientists after World War II, remains shrouded in mystery. The cover-up surrounding this operation raises serious questions about the extent of its scope and the true intentions behind it. One of the most puzzling aspects of Operation Paperclip is the sheer number of scientists involved. Initial estimates put the number at around 1,000, but recent research suggests that as many as 1,600 German scientists were recruited by the US military. Among them was Wernher von Braun, a key figure in the development of Nazi Germany's rocket program. After being brought to the US under Operation Paperclip, he became a leading figure in NASA's space program. However, many of these scientists had more than just technical expertise to offer. Some were accused of war crimes, including experimentation on concentration camp prisoners and involvement in the production of weapons of mass destruction. Yet, despite these allegations, they were granted immunity from prosecution by the US government and allowed to continue their work. The question remains, why would the US government go to such lengths to protect these scientists? One possible answer lies in the Cold War-era competition with the Soviet Union. The US was eager to gain an edge in the scientific race to develop advanced weapons and space technology, and recruiting top German scientists seemed like a quick way to do so. But there is also evidence that the US government was aware of the moral implications of its actions. Internal documents reveal that officials discussed the potential backlash from the public if the true extent of Operation Paperclip were to be revealed. To avoid this, they implemented a strict cover-up, keeping the details of the program classified for decades. Perhaps the most intriguing unanswered question surrounding Operation Paperclip is what happened to the scientists after they were brought to the US. While some, like von Braun, went on to have successful careers in their respective fields, others disappeared from public view. The lack of information about these individuals raises concerns about what exactly they were working on and whether their research had any negative consequences. For example, Arthur Rudolph, who played a key role in the development of the V-2 rocket for Nazi Germany, was later accused of using concentration camp labor to build the weapon. After being brought to the US under Operation Paperclip, he worked on several high-profile NASA projects before voluntarily returning to Germany in the 1980s amidst allegations of war crimes. Yet, even today, many questions remain about his involvement in Nazi atrocities and his work in the US. The cover-up surrounding Operation Paperclip serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked scientific progress. While the pursuit of knowledge is essential to human advancement, it must be balanced with ethical considerations and transparency. The unanswered questions surrounding this operation serve as a reminder that the consequences of our actions can have far-reaching implications, both for those directly involved and for future generations. As we continue to grapple with the legacy of Operation Paperclip, it is essential that we remain vigilant in holding our government accountable for its actions and demanding transparency in all scientific endeavors. Only by doing so can we ensure that the pursuit of progress never comes at too high a moral cost. The implications of Operation Paperclip extend far beyond the immediate post-war period and into the very fabric of modern science, ethics, and society. The United States government made a calculated decision to bring thousands of Nazi scientists to America, integrating them into research institutions, universities, and even military facilities. This influx transformed the landscape of American scientific research and had profound consequences that are still being felt today. Among the most notable figures of Operation Paperclip was Wernher von Braun, a former SS officer and Nazi Party member who became the director of the Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama. Von Braun is hailed as one of the key architects of the American space program, leading the development of the Saturn V rocket that powered the Apollo missions to the moon. However, his role in the exploitation and brutalization of slave laborers during his time at the Middlewart factory, where the V-2 rockets were produced, remains a dark stain on his legacy. The assimilation of Nazi scientists into American research institutions brought with it not only their technical expertise, but also the ideological baggage of their past. A 1947 report by the U.S. Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency acknowledged that many of the best German scientists had been ardent Nazis. The US was still so desperate for scientific talent that it was willing to overlook many moral transgressions. The consequences of this decision continue to reverberate through modern science and society. For one, Operation Paperclip set a troubling precedent for the recruitment of scientists with questionable pasts, normalizing the idea that the pursuit of scientific progress can justify the hiring of individuals who have engaged in unethical or even criminal activities. Moreover, the integration of Nazi scientists into American research institutions often occurred without proper scrutiny or oversight, raising concerns about potential espionage and the transfer of sensitive information to foreign powers. Documents declassified in 2010 revealed that at least 24 former Nazi scientists who had been brought to America under Operation Paperclip were investigated for ties to Soviet intelligence. The ethical implications of Operation Paperclip are particularly stark when considering the role these scientists played in the development and use of chemical and biological weapons. Kurt Blome, a high-ranking Nazi scientist involved in biological warfare research, was brought to the United States under Operation Paperclip, despite evidence implicating him in human experimentation at Auschwitz. Blome's work laid the groundwork for American research into chemical and biological agents, raising questions about the extent to which unethical practices from the Nazi era continue to influence modern scientific endeavors. As we continue to grapple with the legacy of Operation Paperclip, it is essential that we remain vigilant in holding our government accountable for its actions and demanding transparency in all scientific endeavors. Only by doing so can we ensure that the pursuit of progress never comes at too high a moral cost. But as we delve deeper into this murky past, one question remains unanswered. How many more secrets lie hidden within the classified files of our government's scientific institutions? The truth may be more chilling than we ever imagined.